Tasmania's AFL licence hangs in the balance following the upheaval in the state parliament. The likely ousting of Jeremy Rockliff as Premier and the prospect of another election throws the Macquarie Point stadium and plans for the Tasmanian Devils into doubt. The newest Australian rules team is slated to join the league in 2028 if a new stadium is built in Hobart as part of their contractual agreement. With two stadiums already holding professional games in the state, there's been huge public backlash to the estimated $945 million venue. Chris Rowbottom is an ABC sports reporter based in Hobart and is right across all of the details, the twists and turns. Chris, take us through the background to the debate around the AFL in Tasmania, because it's a pretty big political issue there, isn't it?
Sure is, Dan. How far back do you want to go? We'll start relatively recently, and the lead up to the licence being granted to Tasmania in 2023. It was based off a business case put together by a Tasmanian AFL government-led task force, a report compiled in 2019 that included the recommendation or idea that a silver bullet to getting a team would be to suggest building a new stadium to house that team, 23,000 seats, roof at Macquarie Point. That was taken to the AFL. The AFL agreed. That sounds like a pretty good idea to us. The current setup at Bellerive Oval with 12,000 seats wasn't going to be compatible for hosting an AFL team on a full-time basis, and the deal was struck. That was released in May 2023. The provisional licence was granted, much to the joy of many Tasmanians. However, that stadium condition was a big speed bump for a lot of people in terms of garnering their support. It was also revealed that the deal never went through Cabinet, and it was also based on very little Treasury advice. That earned the ire of lots of Tasmanians to this day who have supported the team and the concept of the Devils, but certainly not the stadium that is required for them to play in. The team has since, over the past 18 months, sort of sprouted up out of the ground. Brendan Gale's on board. They've got recruiting managers. They're eyeing players. They're in conversations around draft picks, and they're ready. Well, they're planning to enter the VFL as soon as next year. The stadium does remain unpopular, but the club does insist that it remains, and the AFL insists as well, that it remains a critical part of the team makeup in order for it to be financially viable off the field.
Yeah, there is so much to this, and of course all of that seems to be amplified with what's happening in state parliament. I'm sure that you're watching that pretty closely. Do you have a sense of what this political turmoil might mean for the stadium in Hobart and more broadly for the future of an AFL team in Tasmania?
Yeah, well, it's really interesting because there are two conversations running in parallel here. And the interesting thing is that the no confidence motion brought on by Labor against the Premier Jeremy Rockliff, well, Labor are actually strong supporters of the stadium and the team. They want the stadium and the team. The Liberal government wants the stadium and the team. So one side of the conversation is, well, you know, both of these major parties still want the stadium and the team. So this no confidence motion, despite the chain of events that it might unleash, doesn't really matter because the numbers are there. The problem is that the chain of events goes two separate ways. There's either a change of leader for the Liberal Party with Jeremy Rockliff ousted. That leader needs the support of the crossbench in the Tasmanian Parliament, most of which are against the stadium. So they'll only support him or her if the stadium is dropped as a condition. Same goes for Labor. If they're to form government, they only have 10 seats. They're going to have to do so with the Greens, who are vehemently anti-stadium, or with members of the crossbench that are also anti-stadium and team. And that's where things get really, really messy. And the question is, how does a government form with support of those independents while still keeping plans for a stadium? It looks really, really hard to do at this stage, and that's where the uncertainty is coming from. The other thing as well is simply by calling an election, we end up with timelines that are currently set in the contract for a team being completely and utterly blown out. They're already really, really tight. There was a vote set to take place in about 6 weeks that was to be held in both Houses of Parliament for planning approval of the stadium. If an election is called, the Parliament is dissolved, that vote gets kicked down the road by at least a few months, and then when we come back, we don't know what the makeup of the Parliament will be and if it even gets through. So a really dark cloud hanging over the future of the stadium and therefore the club, which are tied at the hip as a result of what's happening in the Parliament this week.
So Chris, what I'm hearing, tumultuous past, but that might be just the beginning with whatever happens today. ABC Sports reporter Chris Rowbottom reporting from Hobart. Do keep us in the loop.